Now let's talk about some example deals so you can kind of see how this works. Now, there are three different types of lease options or options that you can do. You can do sandwich lease option, a lease option assignment, or a regular option. A sandwich lease option, again, is where you stay in the middle. And let's look at some numbers here, an example deal. So let's say there's a motivated seller, Susie. She lives out of state. She has 2 payments. The property's been vacant for a few months. And let's look at her numbers. The value of this house, now write this down as I'm going through these videos so it kind of helps you stick with it. The value of this house is about $300,000 and she owes $235,000. Now, if she were to sell with a realtor, if I get a calculator out here, and if she listed it for $300,000, it would probably, she would walk away with about 85% of that. She would walk away with $255,000. I mean, okay. And then if she owed $235,000, her net equity, the cash that she would actually walk away with is what? $20,000. $255,000 minus $235,000 is $20,000. That's how much true net equity that she has. And her PITI, her principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, her payments are about $1,750. So again, you want to make sure it's a nice house in a nice area. And I say something like, Susie, if we could lease your property, take care of all the day-to-day maintenance and repairs, and remember, she's worried about it's vacant for 6 months. She's been making this mortgage payment, right? And I could buy the house and you don't have to pay any commissions or closing costs. What would you want to do then? She says, well, I might want to do a lease option. Okay, great. Here's our offer. Now remember, $300. And remember, I showed you with that calculator, she would walk away with $255,000 after selling it with an agent, potentially, right? And only $20,000. After you subtract what she owes, you'd only walk away with $20,000. I'm going to give her a little bit more. It's worth $300 today, and it doesn't need any repairs. This is a house in a good shape already. But I'm going to give her maybe even more than she'd get if she sold it with a realtor. And her payments are $1,750. So I'm going to give her an option to buy it for $280. I'm going to make enough rent to cover the mortgage. I'm going to do 3 years. I'm going to put $10 down as option consideration. And my payments will start in 2 months if we find a tenant buyer. And by the way, my agreement is non-exclusive. So she can cancel at any time before we find a tenant buyer. So I'm not tying up the property. Make sense? So then the next step is you advertise the property. Take pictures, video, put it on Zillow, Craigslist, signs in the yard, etc. And then you sublet it. You sublet it to a tenant buyer who has a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 6 to 12 months, 1 or 2 years. And we're going to set the option price at $320. Remember, we're buying it for $280. We're going to sell it for $320 for 1 year. We have 3 years with the seller. We're going to give the tenant buyer 1 year. And we're going to rent it out for market rents of $2,200 a month. Remember, we're paying $1,750 a month. So what's our cash flow? A sweet $450 a month. And we're going to collect $10,000 down from the tenant buyer. So we're paying how much to the seller? $10. And we're collecting $10,000 up front. So what's our profit up front? Or our cash in our pocket, Hip Pocket National Bank, $9,900. Now, again, I recommend you set aside a lot of that money for future things. And let's say we do some seller concessions or rent credits. Now, what's our total profit on this deal? So up front, you're going to get $10,000 if the tenant buyer doesn't buy the home. Your cash flow is going to be $450 a month for 24 months, about $10,000. The difference between the two option prices, what you're buying it for and what you're selling it for, is about $40,000. You're going to make $48,000 on this deal. Not bad, right? By giving the seller more than she would have gotten if she would have sold it with an agent. Now, let's say it's a lease option assignment. Let's say the seller says no to my offer of, what was it, $280, because she owes $290. What if she says no? Well, then we might want to do a lease option assignment. And this is where you don't stay in the middle. And this is the quickest way to make money using options. You give the seller whatever price they want and whatever rent they want, as long as they are willing to wait for it. No negotiation is needed. You get the property under a lease option, and then you sell that option to a tenant buyer. Let's look at an example deal. So let's say Susie's numbers is it's worth $300, but she owes $290, and her payments are $2,100. Remember, it rents for $2,250 or something, right? So our offer to Susie is we can't stay in the middle of this deal. We'll say, all right, we'll give you an option for $295, $2,100 a month in rent for 2 years, $10 option consideration. And our payments start in 2 months if we find a tenant buyer. And again, the agreement is non-exclusive, So she can cancel it or you can cancel it anytime before you find a tenant buyer. You're not tying up the property. So then we advertise the property, take pictures, advertise it on Craigslist, Zillow, put signs in the yard, etc. And then we assign the contract to a tenant buyer who has a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 6 to 12 months. We set the option price up to 307. How did we get that number? And it's hard to see here. The price that we offered the seller was $295, and we added $10,000 for our assignment fee, and we added $2,000 for rent credit. So that's how we got the 307. So just pause the video there if you wanted to see kind of how we got with that number. And so we're going to rent it for $2,100. We're going to get an option deposit of $10,000, and that's going to be our assignment fee. That is money that we keep in Hip Pocket National Bank. So just like wholesaling, when you wholesale a deal to a landlord or a cash buyer, you're sometimes collecting an assignment fee. So it's the same thing. Instead of assigning our contract to a cash buyer, we are assigning our contract to a tenant buyer, and we're done and out of the deal. So our total profit on this is $10,000. That's our assignment fee. You're not staying in the middle. We're not making any payments. We're not responsible for any repairs. We're not tying up the property. Not bad, huh? That's a great thing about lease options. There's so many different ways you can negotiate these things, okay? Can you do 2 of those lease options assignments a month? You could get a realtor to advertise your properties for you. I'd recommend that. Again, get an escrow company, an attorney, a mortgage broker to handle the closings and stuff like that for you. Now, there's also regular options that I love. I love regular options where you're just going to sell the option. Now, let me explain this kind of as an example. Let's say the house ARV is $200. It needs $10,000 in repairs. So if I was going to make a cash offer, let's call it the Mayo formula. It's maximum allowable offer. You take $200 times 70% minus repairs, minus your wholesale fee. So I would make a cash offer of $122,500. That's my maximum allowable offer. But the seller wants $135,000. So we're $13,000 apart, right? It's a marginal deal. I don't know. Maybe I can sell it. Maybe I can't. What if I just said, all right, I can get you the $135,000 maybe. So I'm going to give you a 90-day option to buy the property for $135,000. Again, it's non-exclusive. Let's say I find somebody who wants to buy it for $135,000. I'm going to sell my option or assign my option for $5,000. Right? Makes sense? And it's non-exclusive, so either side can cancel it if we want. This is a powerful strategy if you don't know if it's a good deal or not. Maybe you can even offer the seller to split the profits or half of whatever you sell the option for. If you say, listen, maybe we can split the profits on this, they might say, all right, well, I might be willing to go down to $122,000. And then you split whatever your option fee is. Very little risk. This is a great strategy for beginners. So I know I went through that really, really fast, but these are 3 different types of option deals. A sandwich lease option where you stay in the middle, a lease option assignment where you just sell your lease option away and you don't stay in the middle, or a regular option, you just get it under an option to buy for 90 days and you sell that option away to somebody else.